India's airlines, like their global peers, are going through their worst crisis ever. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought down the world's mightiest, biggest carriers down to their knees. They have had to ground aircraft for the last few weeks, have had to lay off millions of staff, and plead with their governments, in some cases successfully, for big bailout packages. India's aviation industry is losing rupees 90 crore every day. By other estimates, it will lose rupees 17,000 crore for the entire fiscal ending March 2021. This fiscal is estimated to see domestic passengers plummeting by an astounding, unprecedented 46%, and these are just initial estimates. There is still radical uncertainty on how things will pan out. There is no saying when Indian carriers will be able to get their entire operations up in the skies. India's airlines are estimated to have earned rupees 70,000 crore as revenues for the last fiscal that ended March 31st, 2020. The sector has 6 pan-Indian carriers, 5 regional carriers, and 1 state-run helicopter operator. They together employed 7.5 million people, flew 127 million passengers in 650 aircraft throughout the length and breadth of the last fiscal, barring the last 1 week. India's aviation industry contributes 2% to the country's GDP. This has turned into an abject no-revenue situation since March 24th, when all flights were suspended as part of the nationwide lockdown to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. India's airlines are likely to lose revenue worth rupees 25,000 crore for FY 2021. That accounts for 5% of the entire revenue lost by all the airlines in the Asia Pacific region, according to CRISIL. ET reported last month that Indian airlines are holding on to cash worth rupees 6,000 crore that they earned from advance sale of tickets before the lockdown was implemented. Please remember that apart from Indigo, almost all the Indian airlines are bereft of cash. They're almost all cash negative. Naturally, they're holding on to the cash while they can and have refused to refund any passenger for the cancelled flights. Instead, they're giving them credit shells which they can use once the flights resume. But even the 6,000 crore may not be enough. Remember, even while grounded, airlines have to pay lease rentals for their aircraft, they have to pay parking charges, and they have to pay their employee salaries, even if partially. Aviation consultant Kappa Center for Aviation has estimated that even while grounded, the Indian airline industry spends $500 million every month, equivalent to over rupees 3,000 crore, which is more than half of what they had as reserves last month. It is actually a surprise that all the Indian airlines are still surviving. Although not as harshly as their global peers, Indian carriers too have taken extremely stringent measures to cut costs in this crisis. Most of them have implemented pay cuts, have implemented leave without pay schemes, and some of them have outright laid off employees and prematurely terminated contracts. Some of them have their bookings open from June 1st, but there are no bookings coming because demand is very low. Now, all the airlines have to entirely depend on government guidelines for when to resume operations, for which sectors to start flying from, and even how much of their aircraft they can fill, because social distancing practices have to be maintained. Although that wouldn't be too difficult because the demand situation is bleak anyway. Now, the government has said that it will give 10 days for the airlines to prepare. According to me, 10 days is too limited. It is a very long and very difficult road ahead for airlines. With such radical uncertainty up ahead, airlines in India have made multiple representations to the government for fiscal support. While an outright bailout package is unlikely, they have asked for other things like loan guarantees, like deferment of tax payment, deferment of payment of airport charges to the state-run airport developer, the Airports Authority of India. So far, the government hasn't given or promised anything. This is very different from how governments across the globe have been reacting. The US government has gone all out in support of its airlines. Airlines in America can access up to $25 billion in grants to be used to pay employees. They can access up to $25 billion in loans and loan guarantees. While UK hasn't announced a package, aviation companies can make use of the COVID-19 job retention scheme, by which the government will subsidize up to 80% of salaries for a period of up to 3 months. Governments of Singapore and Hong Kong have both extended hundreds of millions in support packages to the aviation sector. In fact, even the government of Brazil has given a 6-month moratorium on air navigation charges. To be sure, the government needs to take care of more critical, needier sections of society as well as industry before it can look at airlines. Before that, of course, it has a devastating pandemic on its hands to take care of. But if this continues for the next couple of months and with no external support forthcoming, India will be left with fewer airlines than it did have a couple of months back. Those that somehow survive will find it extremely long and difficult to recover.